Hey guys, this is Leeza. Many people believe this idea that men and women can never really be just friends. That no matter how hard two people try, at some point a sexual element is gonna get in the way of a platonic friendship. That's what I wanted to talk about today because it's an idea that I do not buy. I think it's really worth reminding ourselves that this idea that men are incapable of platonic friendships with women isn't just really exhausting and tiresome for women, it's actually also shockingly toxic for men. Men are already socialized to believe that having emotionally intimate friendships with other men isn't possible. So if on top of that they also believe that having platonic intimacy with women isn't possible, men are just isolating themselves even more and denying themselves of any emotional reality even further, and we know that that isn't good for anybody. So many men believe that they can't be friends with a woman without also wanting to get in her pants because of the ideas that we're constantly fed by the mainstream about masculinity and male sexuality and gender relations. But we've got to remind ourselves that a lot of that is actually deeply problematic and quite far from reality if we choose to live otherwise. You know, it's okay for men to work on their emotional intelligence. How about that, right? How about we give our emotional lives a chance regardless of our gender, and how about we also see each other as human beings rather than just as potential lays, right? The idea that men can't relate to women as individuals and that they are so immature that they don't have enough self-control to stop themselves from wanting to get physical, I think that's actually so insulting to men. Like, surely men are better than that, right? When you think about it, this behavior actually further isolates men not just from the possibility of friendship, but also from the possibility of romantic or sexual encounters. Because the fact is that even though maybe all men aren't like this, and there are a few men who are genuinely just looking for friendship or who are at least very clear about what their intentions are, the fact is that most women have a story where they've been betrayed by a friend, or where a guy has pretended to be her friend only because he actually wants to get into bed with her. And so by default, most women are more guarded in their interactions with men and much less likely to trust men. It's going to be that much harder for them to be willing to be friends with a guy, even if that's what he wants, and even if she'd love, in theory, to have him as a friend. The idea that sex and friendship are mutually incompatible is part of the reason that we start to think of friendship as a sort of consolation prize compared to sex. And this is actually a huge injustice, both to sex and to friendship, and for both men and women, because I don't think they really need to be thought of as within a hierarchy, as if one is better than the other. They're both valuable and they're both different, and surely we have more ways of adding value to each other's life than simply by sleeping with each other, right? When someone indicates that they just want to be friends, it's typically seen as a sort of screw you, you're not good enough for me, instead of evaluating the other ways in which you could be involved in each other's lives and add value to each other's lives. And I think that because of the way we see gender relations and the inordinate amount of importance we attach to how sexually attractive we are in the eyes of others, even if we have no intention to reciprocate those advances, somehow our sense of self-worth is so attached to whether other people think we're attractive or would be willing to be in a relationship with us and all of that. And I think the quicker we can let go of all of that baggage and remember that in fact there's so many more ways we can be involved in each other's lives than simply by being desirable to each other, I think the more meaningful and more interesting and more compelling our human relationships can become, because we're multidimensional as human beings, and sexuality is only one element of the many wonderful aspects of our lives. We've got to stop thinking of the friend zone as this horrible, cruel state, and both in the way that women treat men and in the way that men perceive how they're being treated by women. I think this idea that friendship is somehow an insult definitely needs to be rethought, because actually both men and women stand to gain a ton from learning from each other in a platonic capacity, and it also improves your relationships with other people going forward if you have strong friendships with the opposite sex, because you'll get to know in an unfiltered way how the opposite sex operates. I just think that a relationship can be quite a restrictive sort of fishbowl within which to discover how the opposite sex works. You can learn so much more from having friends of the opposite sex. So really there's many benefits, many advantages to being just friends. It isn't an inferior state, and it certainly shouldn't be seen as an insult if someone just wants to be a friend. Alongside this idea that sex and friendship are incompatible and that they operate in a hierarchy and that sex is always better, the other idea I want to dismantle is this idea that attraction has to be fulfilled, or that if you're attracted to someone, you have to act on it. You know, attraction isn't a blind call to action. Sometimes, if the circumstances aren't right, or if you know that your feelings aren't reciprocated, you don't have to act on attraction. You're going to be attracted to many people in your life, and it's okay to just let it be if they don't feel the same way about you, or if they're already seeing someone, or for whatever reason they aren't able to reciprocate. Instead of making them feel bad about it or putting them in a situation where they have to let you down or hurt you, if you know it's really not reciprocal, don't say anything about it. Don't do anything about it. Let it be. It's okay. I think we need to rethink the way we look at and perceive rejection, and be much more aware of the fact that being attracted to someone does not require them to return those feelings. And so it's very important to respect the fact that your issue need not become their issue, right? So when we're thinking about how we feel towards a friend, and if their expectations are platonic, it can make them hugely uncomfortable to suddenly have to deal with the fact like that, oh, you also want to see them naked. That's not a fair expectation to impose on someone, right? So I think especially when you value a friendship and you've cultivated a meaningful relationship with someone, before you burden them with your feelings that they might not reciprocate, it's worth first considering that it's perfectly okay not to do anything about it. If you're attracted to someone, you can just deal with it, be normal, and move on. It's definitely worth developing the emotional maturity to deal with rejection maturely, and to have it within you to take no for an answer without letting it mess up the friendship. And only if that is the case should you bring it up with a friend if you have a crush on them and you're not sure whether it's reciprocated, because otherwise it will mess up the friendship and it'll be really sad, because due to no fault of theirs, due to your issue and your compulsion to act upon an attraction, an important and valuable friendship is compromised. So it's really, I think, an important part of everybody's journey in discovering their own emotional intelligence, and just sort of part of adulthood, to realize that it's okay not to act upon every single impulse. It's just part of your ability to get good at dealing with your feelings without having to sort of spill them on to everyone around you. And I think that a big part of that is dealing with both attraction without acting on it, and being okay with rejection instead of, you know, letting it seem like the end of the world. So for all of those people that send me messages being like, I have a crush on my friend, should I tell them? I hope that this video provides some insight. You don't always have to tell them, and if you do tell them, make sure you're okay with no as a potential answer as well. And remember that friendship is a hugely valuable thing. Honestly, most friendships last much longer than most relationships. And if you look at the way couples treat each other and you look at the way friends treat each other, often friendship is far superior. So choose wisely, and remember that it's not either or, and one isn't better than the other. They're different and they're both valuable. So I think men and women can definitely be just friends, and there are actually a huge number of benefits to being just friends. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a big thumbs up. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media. I hope I'll see you soon. Bye.
I can't